All right, let's begin the second day of the USAWKF online summer seminars. First up is Mr. Bruce Wang. He's been training in Sanda for over 10 years. He's won medals from various national events, represented the U.S. team in the 14th World Wushu Championships in Russia, at the University Games in Taiwan, and then again at the World Wushu Championships in China. He's been a coach since 2013, and he enjoys seeing people achieve happiness through training. That's awesome. We're very excited to just have Bruce teach us some Sanda fundamentals here. Bruce, go ahead.
Hi everyone, that's Bruce. Kevin just introduced me already, so we can skip a little bit. And that's my best friend, Corey Johnson, and I'm handsome. Kevin, you're supposed to say I'm really handsome.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You are very handsome.
Thanks. You only get that one time. So today me and Bruce, we're gonna tackle some other stuff. Kevin already read Bruce's intro, so that saves us some time. We were talking earlier, the goals for the first two classes were mainly to give everybody skills, right? Right, just fundamental skills, how we do everything technically. And then the next two classes we'll probably try to get more, which I think is more for us, it's more fun, is just like the concepts, how different drills, we'll probably do a session of the mitts. So that's where we're at. So first move is roundhouse, please, Wang. Today we're going to talk about a roundhouse kick. I think roundhouse kick is the most common kick in the fighting. After hands is a good setup for get the points like that. So for us in the Sanda rules, we have a different point system. If I kick Corey Johnson's leg, there's a 1 point there. If I kick Corey's ribs here, the torso, is 2 points. If I can reach that high and kick Corey's head, that's another 2 points. But also if kick high enough, makes a criteria. Yeah. So first thing we're gonna show you how the basic building for a roundhouse kick. Okay. So first thing, you mean do it? Yeah, you can do it. All right. First thing, you're going to rotate his bottom foot and bring his knees up. That's a thing one. All right. So turn feet and knees up. Number one. And then number two, when he rotates bottom foot and knees up, put his hand down. That's a number two. Just make sure the coordination must be at the same time. You don't want to knee up and opposite way. You see a lot of beginners doing that. Just make sure your knee up and the hand down at the same time. And third, so first thing, rotate, knee up, hand, right? The last one, you rotate your feet, knee up, hand down, and kick out at the 45 angle. Okay, so we can see here, when Corey knees up, perfectly 45 angle. 90-degree angle. It's 45. 45, right? Whatever. It's 45. So it's a 45 angle, right? So things first, in Sanda, is a lot of involved for the catching and takedown, right? So the small movement he kick is hard for the opponent to catch, right? He said up and down fast is only one bit. A lot of people ask me, what can I kick like Muay Thai style? Big, wide, roundhouse kick like that. What do you think about it? But there's like one that the drills Bruce did are good, right? What he means is the smallest movement possible, the most efficient is what you want to do. A lot of times, some guys that train, we get some guys that have done some cross training, and I've actually done a couple of Muay Thai fights when I was younger. Sometimes there's a big emphasis on cutting horizontally on any time I kick, which isn't bad. But what Bruce is saying is that if I'm quick, and I do 45 instead of a right angle, that I have a better chance of not getting caught. So sometimes really wide is okay, and there's times that I can do that. But for right now, for the most part, for new beginners, we teach the most efficient thing. It's the same thing like last week, or 2 weeks ago, we talked about a cross punch. Your elbows in, and I want to punch straight down the middle. Of course, there's moments and times that I come offline and do overhand. But in our opinion, efficiency has to be your first priority, especially when you're new. So Yeah, so back to the three step. So like Bruce was saying, I want to rotate my foot and my knee comes up. So a lot of times for beginners, it's just a coordination thing because when you're new, they can't hardly do anything and they fall over. So we have to break everything down at the step. So I rotate my foot, my knee comes up. I come back down. Rotate my foot, my knee comes up. Now I want to reach out with my hand for a 2, and it's just nice and relaxed. It's a balance issue. It's easy for my not my flexibility, but to keep my balance instead of keeping both my hands up. And then I kick at a 90-degree angle to my shoulder and come back. Right?
Yes, sir. So this is the basic foundation for the beginner, because without a basic foundation, in the future we don't have a evolution, right?
Evolution?
Yeah, like different kind of skills and when, how, why. So we're gonna show you another leg, something. Even a southpaw stance is kind of the same concept. Okay, first thing, turn my outer foot, my knee up. That's 1, right? Bam. 2, with my hand down to chop my air and then make sure your knees up. And third, same thing, just kick out and 45 angle. That's 45. 45. The hand down, bam.
So one other thing about the reason, sometimes the questions we get is why does my opposite arm stay tight and close to my body when I kick with my other leg, right? So I want my other hand, very rarely, I mean, I won't say it's impossible, but I can probably say I've never seen it. When I kick with my right side, it's almost impossible that Bruce is going to counter me on this side, right? Yeah, well, okay, obviously, he can, if the distance isn't wide and I'm too close, I can. But what I'm more concerned about is if a lot of times when you fight or you spar, Bruce is going to throw his right roundhouse, I throw mine. Bam, I get caught on the same side. So whichever side that I'm not kicking with, I want it to stay tight, and it's going to be my anchor. My head is going to stay above my supporting leg. Bam, right? If Bruce happens to counter, wow, I'm still protected while I kick, right? So I don't want to drop both hands and kick. Now my balance is going to be weird, and I'm open to getting counter on the other side. Very rarely is Bruce. Of course, he can punch me on this side, but he's going to have to really step in, which would be my fault for not throwing at the right time or the right distance. But if I do throw it at the right time and the right distance, and he decides to roundhouse at the same time, bam, I need to be protected too, right? So how, when, and why? So how we already did.
Yep.
When, the good thing about one of the reasons, like Bruce was saying earlier, why roundhouse is probably the most prevalent kick is it's easy. It's very aggressive. Like when we talked about it, the front kick for us is more of it's an offensive movement, but it's more offensive only in the way that it sets up other options to where it's primarily defensive. Like I step in and jab, Bruce front kicks, bam, no front kicks. Bam, he stops me, right? It's a very, very good, easy defensive movement that doesn't burn a lot of energy. Roundhouse is too, but the difference is man, a roundhouse is if thrown correctly and landed solid, can change everything, right? Like I used to tell beginners, I think me and Bruce have talked about this a lot, is a lot of times when you fight, and this is getting into strategy and philosophy a little bit, and we're probably going to do some classes. If I win, me and Bruce fight, he has his idea, I have my ideas, what I want to do, what he wants to do, where I want this to go, where I want to bring it to my game. I want to do what I want to do. If I want to wrestle, I want to use my brain and my setup to make Bruce turn it into a wrestling. That's just one of the cool things about Sanda is there's so many different ways to win that everybody has a different strategy.
An idea for fight.
And ideas how they want the fight to go. So that's a really beautiful thing about the sport, I think, is that since it's open, there's so many options. And so some countries and some athletes are different. You know? Some guys don't have that good of striking. They have great wrestling. So they have to bring the game into that. So a roundhouse, a perfect example, we used to talk about, man, a good leg kick. I rotate, bam, I land hard, really good and everything. Guys, sometimes one roundhouse can win a fight. Because the second I get smacked with it, a lot of times I'm not thinking, holy crap, I don't want to get kicked with that again.
The kind of mental change.
Right. I mean, just one movement can change everything to where instead of the guy thinking what he wants to do, now he's thinking, man, I don't really want to get kicked with that again. And now Bruce now I'm passive, I'm more hesitant, and now Bruce has more freedom and more options to do what he wants to. It's, like establishing or dominating and establishing his will on his opponent, right? So why roundhouse is a pretty universal move, right? Like whether it's my lead leg, Bruce is pretty good at this, and we'll get into this with a sidekick before too. Bruce can set anything up with his front leg, right? It's not powerful. It's not gonna take me out of the fight. It won't hurt that much, but it'll definitely bother me almost fast. Bomb. He can set me up with other options, right? So, distance drills. So now that we kind of gone and we just touched the surface of how and why. So the distance drills are going to be ideally when Bruce lands. Where do you want to land, Bruce?
I want to land on between my the shin and the ankle, but for sure not on your bottom foot. If you land with your bottom foot, you're going to break your own ankle.
Like on your toes.
Yeah, that's what you're
catch your knee, right?
Catch your knee. So make sure when you hit him, just like a baseball bat, the 3 hits, use your whole shin here, then on your opponent, you chop the big tree here, all right? But make sure when you go up, you don't want to, like what Corey said, you don't want to be too big. If you can, as a...
Of course it's possible.
Yeah.
We're not going to get into specialties right now. We're just doing basic drill. So just knee up, rotate your hand. The good distance when you turn, make sure it land on your shin. So I go, and bring it back, okay? I use his body weight, bring my both leg back. So I don't want to just stay there and like this. I use his body weight and bring my foot back, kick, bring it back. This is a really, really, I don't want to say a secret technique, but if you really want to learn how, of course, this decent roundhouse, the Bruce kick roundhouse, not bad, right? It's going to hurt. It's not too anything. If you really want to know what made, you can watch any guy, you can challenge me and go watch YouTube videos, anybody who's considered a great kicker or roundhouse kicker, whatever. Anytime Bruce lands, his knee is bent. What Bruce means by delivering his body weight or using my body weight is he's not going to land here with his knee bent and pull back. He's going to land, and then he is going to drive and straighten his leg off the next 6 inches through my body weight. Yeah, and use me to straighten off. I land, and I use him to drive into him to pull back. Just like arrow. It's the same. Same thing, and the same way you punch, right? If I landed on Bruce if I land with my knee bent and come back, right? It's not bad, but it would basically be the equivalent of punching with my elbow bent still and coming back, right? Well, I don't want to just punch him and come back. I want to have the full range of motion so that I get all that room to speed up. I land, pop, and I drive through the last couple inches, and come back, right? So he's digging into this, he lands on the surface and then he drives in with the rest of his weight for the final, 6 inches with a little bit of straightness. Yeah, 6 inches. Maybe not that big. Your legs are a little. So now the distance drill. So roundhouse is great for being defensive. It's great for being offensive. But not better. Just one thing that separates it is I think it's a more, not effective movement, but a more damaging movement. So this one little drill we wanted to show for people, once you develop, yes, I know how to, Bruce knows how to throw a good roundhouse, is, okay, so now I know how to throw a good roundhouse, but if I just sparred and I've never done anything, I don't have any concept to throw the roundhouse, it's actually pretty easy for me to not get kicked, right? So one thing we work a lot on is distance and range. Same thing with your punches. I don't want to throw straight punches when I'm too close. So I have to develop a sense of what the correct distance is. It's the same thing with the roundhouse. So one drill that we do all the time with beginners is we'll just focus on one leg, like his back leg. Oh, another thing. For us, I know a lot of you guys watching probably have Kalu background, so you have flexibility, dexterity, foot-eye coordination, if you want to call it that. So you guys can probably do these movements maybe better than me. I doubt it, but maybe. Maybe better, but not as handsome. Better than this. But if you don't have a base and you're new and you're not very coordinated yet, I don't, like we talked about the last class, we don't switch stances. We don't switch them. But for roundhouse, I encourage everybody to switch their stance to practice their roundhouse with their left leg from back here. A lead roundhouse like Bruce did earlier, we'll cover this movement later. This is a very, in my opinion, it's a very, very technical movement. So we usually have Bruce switch, and he'll go through the same drills. 1 knee up, 2 rotate, 3 kick out. So everything. You can switch your stance to practice your left leg. Okay. So back to the regular stance. So the distance drill. What we'll do is we play a game. We did the same thing with the steps, I believe, where I lead and Bruce has to follow. So Bruce is stationary, he lands. It's fairly easy, but however, it's not very normal when you're actually sparring, right? Because I'm moving around. I'm not going to stand here and let him kick me. So what normally happens is we do a game. I step back, Bruce will step in and land right now. Like good job. So when Bruce steps in, he does it in one single motion, right? He steps with his front leg and he is kicking with his back leg at the same time. Fine, right? He's not, if you step back, Bruce, he's not stepping and then kicking. He's stepping with his front leg and then bringing his body weight and his momentum to kick at the same time. So the other one, so we'll do that one more time. If I go backwards and Bruce follows, bam, very good, right? He keeps the right distance. So what we're looking for in the beginners is to land on the sweet spot that Bruce is talking about. So where if I go and Bruce doesn't step in enough, he lands on his toes, right? So we don't want that to happen. So a good drill for the beginners is I have a partner and I just lead. So I'm going to be the leader. I step back, and Bruce makes up the perfect distance to land in the right spot and at the right length on his foot. Now, when he's stationary, we know. When he goes forward, he knows. Now, if I go back, right, he does the exact same drill. He can slow down. He ain't got to show off. Oh, sorry. So when we go slow, right, remember the distance that you have in fighting. If I shouldn't be able to reach out and touch with my hand, right? Anytime we spar, there's 3 distances. There's one where we're close enough that either one of us can touch each other. 2 is in the middle where, one is where we're very close inside, where I can wrestle and everything's great or clinch. 2 is going to be the one where we're in decent distance to touch each other. And 3 is the one where you always are at, which is I can't touch Bruce and Bruce can't touch me unless one of us moves in. Okay. So when I go into Bruce's distance, if he doesn't move and he kicks, it's way too close, easier for me to catch, no power because it's at the end, it's not at the end of his leg, which is like a lever. So if I'm close, there's no leverage here anymore. And then it's really good for me in wrestling and catching, right? Because I have all his weight and leverage and nothing. So we'll go slow. Bruce is gonna step back. Right, he's gonna take a normal step back and land, okay? So this one's a little tricky when you're new. Step back, bam, and he lands in the right spot. So those are the distance drills. Those are probably the 2 basic ones we usually start.
Yeah, and we can do like, in the future, we can talk about like when someone is stepping and you step back, jump back, kick at the same time. That's another fancy label roundhouse kick.
Let's say, well, it's more realistic because it doesn't give me a chance to react. So like, we have a million drills for just this that we'll get into, but for this class, pretty much last class in this class, we're just going to go over the technical aspect and give you guys a couple of ideas, but for the most part, just how correctly and technique-wise to do this. So, you got anything else on right now?
Not much, but just make sure when you do it, every time when you do any kind of roundhouse kick, either front roundhouse kick, back roundhouse kick, just make sure do not bend your knee too much.
Oh yes, it is.
Because I see a lot of most beginner, like when I try to kick so hard and they bend their knee down and start losing their balance. Because they ask me, oh, if I bend my knee, I put more power into that. I don't think that's the right idea.
Yeah, a good example is, I don't know if people know what a pistol squat is. So if Bruce is kicking his leg and keeps his toes facing me, now bend your knee and do a squat. It's really hard, right? It's a movement. It's a great strength and conditioning. But what happens if Bruce bends his supporting leg too much is he takes away his own flexibility and his balance, right? So Bruce can never throw a roundhouse at my head while bending his bottom leg, his supporting leg too much, right? So there's 2 rules for the supporting, well, 3. You rotate the supporting leg. You don't bend the supporting leg. It's not buckled. It's just unlocked, right? Not buckled, just unlocked. Right. And his weight, do it one more time, Bruce, is right above free. His head, his knee, and his foot are all in one line. His leg's not locked, it's just unbuckled, right? But when you unbuckle, when you bend too much, I mean, you can feel it when you do it. It takes all your flexibility away, it takes your power away, and it makes it super easy for you just to get pushed over, right? Which we don't want. That's how many points? Good boy. Good boy. About to be in the referee. You got anything else for us?
Well, today, let's do this a basic idea for Roundhouse. Eventually, maybe next video, we were talking about drill and the strategy-wise for the Roundhouse kick. Yeah.
We get through all the technique the first 2 classes. Then we'll start going into the, I don't want to say the fun stuff, but the stuff that proves to be a Sanda athlete, you have to have a brain.
Good. Yeah.
It's big misconception, but it's true. Because you have to be fairly intelligent to know how to land on somebody who doesn't want you to land on. So there's a lot of techniques, drills, and things that we do that I think is very special.
Yeah, I think because in the future, we're gonna do a like combination, like 1-2 left roundhouse kick, 1-2 right roundhouse kick. If you, without a basic idea or the basic concept of skill training, in the future it's hard to build a next step because you don't have the block there. If your performance not right, if you don't know how to do the right movement at a good time, they're gonna cause kind of big trouble.
Or you just want to really be good at it.
Yeah, in the future. So.
Okay, so the next move we're going to do, I'm going to take over because I want Bruce to show the movement the most. So he's going to be working pretty hard. So I'm not going to do that because of various reasons. But so this move, Bruce has probably the best one that I've seen outside of guys from China, the China team. I think that it's the sidekick is what we're about to go over. Now, the sidekick for Sanda, and we'll spend probably quite a bit of time on this one. And the reason we spend a lot of time on this one is because, for one, it's a very, very technical move. Technique, I say it like that. It's really technical. It's very, and in my opinion, I mean, our logo for the gym is the guy throwing a sidekick almost. It's a little cartoon guy like. It's a movement that I think is very, very specific for Sanda that no other sports really do in the same way. You know, like there are like other martial arts that do sidekicks in a way. They do sidekicks, but in a way, I feel like that Sanda's really taken that move and made it their own. And it probably made it, in my opinion, and maybe I'm biased, but I think it's the most technical, the most powerful, safest, version of the sidekick. So we're going to spend a lot of time on it because I think it's very unique to the sport. So yeah, so here we go. So first of all, the difference between a sidekick and a front kick are very similar. The difference is that, again, the front kick is very, in my opinion, a passive movement, a defensive movement that's great for setting other things up, but not so great if you're really trying to inflict a lot of damage, right? The sidekick is almost all those things, plus it's very, very, very powerful, effective movement for all those things. It's quick, it's great to be defensive, it's great to set things up, but it's also very, very good to really, really hurt people. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, you see guys every year at Worlds or other fights getting knocked out from big sidekicks to the chest or to the head. To the head. Very rarely do you see good front kicks to the head. I mean, we have a couple of highlights of it, but it's not something that's, I would say the sidekick's a lot more powerful. So, just like the roundhouse, well, one thing I wanted to bring up is one of the other cool things about Sanda, and I'm sure all martial arts are this way, but at least I've done this one for 14 years, we've done it for 10 or more, is that I've seen in my time the evolution of this movement change from, honestly, I think the first time me and Coach saw it with the Chinese girls team. When I first started training, we used to do a big circled roundhouse. We'd do this all day. I'd crunch, circle my leg, circle one knee up, bam, and throw this big load up, bow, and powerful sidekick, right? They've changed the movement because they're like, well, this takes a lot of time, this big movement, it's primarily focused on power, but it's so big, it's kind of easy to catch. So they've changed the movement, and we'll get into the differences now. So, first move, I'm gonna give Bruce a chair so that he can hold it just as he was doing this his first day. So he can put he's going to get in his stance. He's going to put his right hand on the chair like this. I have to take a drink because my mouth is dry. So the first move, we're going to break it up into parts again. So Bruce's head is on his supporting leg. I'm not so worried about his stance. I just want his backhand to have this chair for balance if he needs it. So one, instead of this big motion that we used to do, where he brings his knee into his chest and fires out very powerful, he is just going to bring his knee up, straight to his chest, and it's going to be flat here. So his knee can be slightly angled up, but it cannot be down. If it's down, there's no power, right? It's a different kind of kick. If you like a spinning back kick or something. Spin back kick, yeah. But for this, it has to be at minimum level. It cannot be knee down, okay? There's no power. So this is one. His head's above his supporting leg. The other important part is he's crunching right here where my hand is. I don't want Bruce to lay down. This is too much because now he's already lost. Now no matter what happens, only thing his kick where the power is going to be generated from is just the extension of his leg, right? So I want his body to stay up. You all right? Yeah, okay. So I want his body to stay up. His other hand is just out of the way. It is not in front, okay? It's going to be behind him and out of the way. When he doesn't need the chair, his other hand's going to be touching his head, right? But, so, just for beginner purposes, we'll pretend he sucks and he'll have a chair. So he's going to crunch here, and he's going to try to stay looking at his opponent the whole time while holding this leg flat, right? So back down, Bruce. So this is one. So it should look like this. One, boom, he's flat. He's still up. He's crunching. His leg is flat here. It's not pointed down. The bottom of his foot is facing the opponent, right? He doesn't have it out here. He doesn't have it too far this way. And his toes aren't, his foot is flexed up, right? Back down, Bruce. Now let's talk about number two. So one, Bruce comes up. Now two, Bruce is going to rotate. So the extension in the kick, this is where it gets kind of crazy, is where from here, when Bruce extends out, his knee is going to stay up. He rotates, he extends, bam. And the last second, his hip rotates down. So for the last 6 inches, bring your knee back, Bruce, bam. So watch this, see his hip right here? So the last extension of the kick is he is going to corkscrew his hips to the floor and rotating his supporting foot with his toes out where they are. And now his knee is facing slightly at a downward angle, right? So it comes back. If Bruce doesn't rotate his hip, when he kicks out, it's just this. It's not bad, but it's so much momentum and power that's left because his hip is still up and down. And his kick will be slightly short. So he brings his knee back. So now when Bruce extends on two, he's closer, right? He extends, his body stays up. The last second, bam, he rotates it, leans back, and rotates his hip to the floor. Three is this. I don't want Bruce to just drop his leg here. This is not three. This is terrible. I counter, I kick him in the foot. When he rotates out, the last step is he is going to reverse the corkscrew and pull it back. Bam, pull it back and set it back down. Primarily the same reason why you punch and pull back. And for kicking, once I catch, Bruce needs to have the habit of pulling out, right? So let's do this again, and I'll try to get out of the way a little bit. So one, Bruce comes up, he crunches at the hip, his head is up, he's looking at his opponent, he's not looking away, he's not turning. Two, he goes, rotates his hip down the last second, he pulls back with his hip, and comes here and comes back to the mat. So if you've ever played pool before, let's pretend how this corkscrew works, right? I have tan lines. Ooh, spend too much time in the sun. So we'll pretend that the noodle or the pool cue is Bruce's leg. So when Bruce crunches, his leg is loaded and everything, his upper body's straight up and down, right? When he extends his back, bam, he drives it forward with his hip. So that last motion is just like a pool cue. His upper body would be my arm, his leg would be the pull cue, and extends with his hip while corkscrewing his hip.
And I think the one could be explained like that because, first of all, in Sanda, we're big fan for catching people's kick, right? Any kind of kick, front kick, side kick, roundhouse kick. So my goal is from A point to the B point, B point to the A point. I don't want to make the A, B, and C and come back. So the make the time take longer and easy get counter. So like what you say, just from A and B. When I up, I kick, pop, and come back. So he doesn't have that much time to react to catch my sidekick. So,
and also it's the same. What do we call it? We call it I call it the same track. To where if it was a railroad track or a train track, Bruce comes up to point A, 1, he kicks out. 2, he goes back in the exact same way, bop, and back to the floor, right? Of course, there's other ways. Again, the same thing. This movement can be manipulated for strategy or to set other things up or something like that. But one more time for 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to show you a couple more drills for the sidekick. The sidekick we're going to spend a couple of drills on because, again, I think it's like a movement that's extremely specific to Sanda because if it was my opinion, I think that boxing has, obviously boxing has great hands because that's all you can do. Thai boxing is great for clinch work. They can fight in the clinch. Where Sanda, you have to wrestle and you don't have all day to do it. Sanda, in our opinion, or at least we'll say you agree with me.
I agree.
Okay. Is the two things that really separate Sanda and I think are the most beautiful things about Sanda. One of them I think is Sanda has two things that separate it from everything else. One is the sidekick is very unique. And 2 is its ability to mix striking with takedowns. So not any other martial arts really have that focus on, okay, I can punch and kick and wrestle, but they don't put them together. You have wrestling that's good for stand-up and shooting in and taking people down. You have Thai boxing that's good at striking, kicking, kneeing, elbowing, all of which Sanda can do. And but they don't have emphasis on wrestling and takedowns, right? I think they have rules where you can sweep people clean and it counts, but not Sanda to where every takedown is valued pretty high. So, yeah, so which is why you want to come back on the same track is because, man, they're going to be looking to take you down because it's such a big deal. So the way the sidekick evolved in just the time of me doing it was, well, if we take this big movement and we throw it out there, it's super powerful, but it's kind of easy to catch and the distance can get messed up because his knee's coming in and out too much. To where now they changed it to where it's just up and straight out. Bam, right? I've had karate guys come in and they do weird things. They bring their foot to their knee and kick out, right? Or they tried, other question I get a lot is, do we use the side of our foot to cut people?
No,
never. I don't understand the point of it. The idea that my foot could, I'll just say this. The idea that me or Bruce's cornered foot could hurt me, it would probably take years of practicing that specific thing to where if Bruce puts the bottom of his foot on my chest with all his body weight, with all the mechanics we just talked about, good luck with that. So no, we try to land with the flat of our foot. All right, so next drill is going to be similar to the one we just did with the roundhouse.
The statue?
Yep, statue move drill. I call it the statue move. Oh, this is going forward step, right?
Yeah.
So for the So now we do this drill for most of the beginners after they understand the 3 points we just did. We'll show you more drills on how to do the sidekick that help when you have a partner in a second. So first drill is just like the roundhouse, it's all about movement, right? If we do the 1, 2, 3 drill just like we did, Bruce has a good concept, or the beginner has a good concept of kicking at a stationary target. So moving, we're going to move just like the steps we did last week. We're going to take 3 steps and we're going to load up like we're going to throw a cycle. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, step, up, and hold, right? So try Bruce. So Bruce comes 1, 2, 3, bam. All his weight, it's head above his supporting leg. So the point of this drill is to hold it as statuesque as possible. I don't want Bruce wiggling. I don't want him moving because if I'm sturdy enough to hold my leg up, it's probably a good base to throw it from, right? Yeah. So let's do it again. So Bruce is going to go forward. 1, 2, 3. He holds, he crunches, keeping his upper body up for about 5 seconds, and he pulls back and puts it down. He doesn't just set it down. I hold, bam. I pull back, I sit down, okay? To get used to that motion, not just up, okay, yeah, great, I put it back in. No. All right, so one more time, going forward. He comes 1, 2, 3, solid, no movement, no wiggling, everything's right. He's loaded, his hands in, everything's smooth and still, right? No wobbling or losing his balance, okay? So once you can do it, we call them line drills. You can do it all the way forward. The second one, you can do it all the way backwards. So now let's say the passive movement where Bruce needed to step backwards. So now he's going to do the exact same thing, taking the correct step, going backwards. 3, up, holds it still. Oh, 2 goes look forward. I ain't even touch me, man. Do it again. But that's the move. It's hard to do like it. So it goes 1, 2, 3, bam, holds it. Statuette. Keep going one more time, going backwards first. Yes, sir. 1.
Just as a warning, we have 20 minutes.
Here, right? Good. Now when he goes forward again, 1, 2, 3, up, crunches solid. He's not laying down with his upper body. Good man. So once you can hold the foundation of the beginning of that movement fairly well, it's the same thing in punching. Most mistakes happen. Punching and kicking are not pretty much the same. Mistakes that are made in the technique are pretty much the same. They're always in the first. If the complete movement was on a scale to 100, to where the first 10% of the movement, 50 is the extension, and the rest of the 50 is coming back. Most mistakes in technique happen in the first 10%. To where punching, right? What's the number one mistake I make when I punch? I'm brand new.
Open the elbow.
Over my elbow before I even bring my hand out, or I drop my hands to punch, right? So it's the same thing in the sidekick or a roundhouse. Most of the guys, and that could move my feet, most of the mistakes that are made in a roundhouse or a sidekick is the first 10%. Whether I brought my leg way too wide instead of bringing my knee directly to the target, or I don't rotate, or I drop my hands when I kick. It's always usually in the first 10% of the movement where people make a mistake. So once we call it the stature drill. Once I am good at holding that foundation, it really solidifies that first half of the movement to where it gives this really good, strong foundation for Bruce to kick off later, right?
I think there's a basic concept for beginner because most time people just want to use their whole power or their own idea to do the skill, So like the drill we're talking about today is good for like skill your steps, like step 1 by 1, 1, 2, 3. Because in the future we have a different kind of cycle, like what we say, defense, offense, or counter cycle. So all the stuff we're doing right now is good for basic fundamental, for training your psychic skill. What do you think?
I agree 100%. Sweet. Okay, so now 2 more drills for the sidekick, and then I think we'll probably be on time for the Q&A. Yeah, we're going to leave a little bit more time, Kevin. Probably if you'll stop me at 10 minutes, because last week or 2 weeks ago we had a lot more questions than we had time to answer because I think we're really popular. Noodle drill for a sidekick. So most important thing again from I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you see. So I'm going to keep my noodle about Bruce's hip height, right at his waist, his belt line, and I'm going to bring it out just a little bit. We'll just show the movement. Go, Bruce. Right, Bruce is going to bring his knee up, crunch hard, and get over the noodle. Right. So the reason this is important is because of Bruce's knee. If he does not get the knee up, he cannot kick good. It will be low. There's not going to be any hip extension. It's just going to be a crappy kick. Right. So what we do is we keep the noodle here, and we do this on the bag, we do it on the mid, so we just do it in the air here. So I'm going to hold. I want Bruce to come up above the noodle, right? Yeah, all the way extended. If his knee's still bent, he didn't do it right. Okay. If you're not that good at this movement, it's fine. You can lower it a little bit. It's a little bit easier. Yeah, right. Very good. Knee up. The reason this is also practically important is a lot of times Bruce is going to give me a side kick when I try to run out. You see this a lot, right? Especially with my back leg and side kick. He gets his knee up and over my leg before I have a chance to land. So he knocks me off my base. Most of the time, when you see front kicks or side kicks knock somebody down and stand in, they get the 2 points for the knockdown. It's because of that movement. Because his knee gets up and over and lands on me while I'm on one foot trying to roundhouse him. It's 2 points or 4 points? It's 4 points. Just 2 down.
So, well, I only had 2 for the take. Sorry. Okay. So, noodle drill, again, just good stance. One other thing, it's okay, face this way, Bruce. It's okay to practice. Bruce might not need to because he's better at the movement than me. I have to be very sideways when I do a side kick. It's just the way maybe I'm not that good at it. If you don't have to, it's okay, but I'll say this. If you stay too square with your feet, one other important is when Bruce lands with the side kick go, bam, I want a perfect footprint, right? Not the corner of my foot. I'm not trying to cut it. I want the perfect footprint, and I don't want it to slide away. Because any movement's the same thing punching. If I punch straight, bam, I punch straight down the pipe and make a stamp with my fist and come back. I don't slide. Because now all that power gets generated all over the place, right? So same thing with the side kick. If you stand more sideways, it'll make it a little bit easier for you to land laterally. Bam, right? Good. So I don't want his foot to slide. So when you practice on the bag or on the mitts, problem I had forever. You hit the mitt back, you bring it back. You do not slide off of it. You don't slide off the bag. If the bag is spinning, when you side kick it, there's a problem. It's because your foot is spinning it too much.
Like you penetrate one spot.
Yeah, you just like punching, right? I want to drive, punch one spot. I don't want to punch loose in the stomach and slide around. One spot, bomb, right? So, cool drill. Last one for side kick, and then we'll probably be ready for the Q&A. Swing leg, well, we got 2, we'll go fast. Let's do the passive, stationary, aggressive. So passive or stationary, right, we just did. Bruce brings his foot up, and yeah, you can do this like he goes, bam, right? Good extension, knee up. It's great for if I step in, he doesn't move. Hey, don't move. Oh, don't move. You don't move, I move. If I step in, he comes, bam, very good side. If he has to step back passive, just like the statue drill, he steps back, bam. Good side kick, especially when I try to punch, right? Last, let's say he does whatever, I step back. Now, he can step with like we call it a trading places with his feet. Go, bam, bam. Or he can go behind his foot, judging on the distance and your preference, right? Bam, and that's how you go more aggressively coming after the guy. Last drill, which is, so we've done the footwork, the basic technique, how to do it, the evolution of it, how to build a base for moving, right? The statue drill. And then we just did the how to actually do the movement and pull, which is with a partner, and then you just continue to kick out just like the statue drill. The last thing is a little tricky, and this is where you really develop power for this movement, right? So all this drill does is teaching Bruce how to use his body weight and his momentum to come at the same time as his foot, right? A comparison for a little bit easier to understand is like if I punch, step and cross, right? If I step and cross, I don't step in and cross, right? And I don't cross and step in, okay? I do it at the same time, and my body weight, my momentum comes, and everything is at the end of my hand, right? So I reach my front foot and step in. Bam. All my weight and body weight comes at the same time. This drill is teaching you how to do that with your side kick. So Bruce is gonna, for this drill, he's gonna put his weight on his back leg, right? He's not bending his knee now. He's just extending his leg, one, and bringing it forward, right? Just reaching forward, and then now he is gonna reach forward and bring his body weight to him. Bam, right? So he uses this drill to learn. He won't step with his back foot. He lets his front leg pull him to me. Yeah, right? Now, once you do that 4 or 5 times, then he can try a regular side kick. And then you watch, he'll crunch, and his leg extension will bring him to me along with his body. Yeah. Right? So even done easy, I think like if all the factors are correct and all the techniques are good, you can see the load up of power, whether it's his body weight moving forward, the crunching and the extension it's ready. Coach Lee all the time says something, about a rubber band, right? I load it and pop it out, right? So from those drills, I mean, if you can really get the technique down and use those other drills, I mean, we break it down to how to do the technique, how to do it moving, or how to build a foundation moving. And then you can do kick while moving, and then you can practice on the power drill and how I swing my leg to use my body weight, my momentum to come instead of me having to always take a step to kick somebody. I can reach my front foot and reach, right? We used to do that when we just pop with one leg towards the opponent. Kevin, what do you look like on time, man? You good for questions?
Yeah, we have 10 minutes left, so if you'd like to switch now, we could do that. First question, can you give us pros and cons to switching stances or staying on the same side?
Okay. Switching stances. Yeah, so for us, obviously, we're going to be, my opinion on this or Bruce's opinion on this is going to be dictated on our coach. So what I say doesn't necessarily mean that it's set in stone that you should never switch stances. But for us, I look at it like this. I mean, I've done it this long in one stance for 14 years. Bruce has done it the same way. And I don't feel like I'm that good at this stance. So I think I would have a lot of trouble trying to do both of them at the same time instead of just really getting good at one. That being said, like Bruce has hurt his elbow. He had surgery. So he's been switching around and playing, being in an opposite stance, which I make fun of him for. It's not bad. It's going to be like anything else, right? Like I say this a lot, that there are certain techniques that I don't think are good or I don't think are beneficial. I would say that I think if you want, but you can, if that being said that I don't like them, it doesn't mean that they can't be good. But I would say this, I think you can build up a fighter faster if he only focuses on one, because he doesn't have to worry about the distance, the coordination, the way he punches and changes, things like that. I'm not a big fan of switching, although there is a lot of this. I'm not educated in it, so it's not a big deal. He's right-handed, right? A lot of times when he switch, bomb. He's just stepping there and waiting for me to smack him. So sometimes you can time your guy like that. But for us, we don't switch stances. We don't teach beginners to do it. I think it's just a faster way to build people up on one side. But it's not bad.
I think it's like what Chris say, for beginner, stay one side will be good because you don't want to give them too much information in the short time. You know? Like I start training like by softball because first the elbow surgery, and second, I think they're going to be in the future. You can have a more like gains in the competition. You know, like if somehow he knows my timing, he knows my movement from my normal side, I can just jump to other side to kind of confuse his idea. You know, not just focus on one side.
Yeah, it's good. The more time you spend on a technique, the better you're going to get. I don't have an opinion on it. So therefore, like, since I don't do it, I don't have any strategies, but if you like it, go for it.
All right, thank you. Next one is, do you have Sanda athletes, or how do you manage their training if they're practicing for another type of bout like kickboxing or MMA? And do you train knees at all?
Yeah, so like for us, I think our opinion, so like I've done MMA, Bruce has done MMA. I've done like one, like we've done like American kickboxing fights. We've done a couple of Muay Thai fights. So like for us, like Sanda incorporates, one cool thing about Sanda is it's not a closed sport, right? So amateur that everybody knows where it's fought on the late time stuff, there's no knee in those elbows. Yeah. But we've done fights, semi-pro fights in China, the boxing where everything goes. So what we do as far as it goes is cross-training with like, whether guys want to do MMA, whether they want to do K1 rules or whatever, where you can knee, is the way we train guys is pretty consistent. But if they do take a fight with those aspects, I mean, when you think about it, like knees, elbows, for MMA, you have cage drills and stuff and jiu-jitsu, but we really focus on those last few things during the fight camp. So we like to have a good 6-7 weeks for, like, if Bruce is doing one of those fights, he'll have, obviously he trains all the time, but for those 6 or 7 weeks, we will start adding more and more of those. We have a bunch of drills we do with those, like clinch drills, knee drills, where we'll do clinching drills for rounds on end, just kneeing and playing around with each other, wrestling and kneeing each other. So we just incorporate those. It's a very small percentage of the actual fight, right? Like an elbow and a knee are just two movements. And with Sanda, there's so much wrestling involved, it's kind of hard to stay clinched on a guy without him trying to take you down. So we just slowly work on those during the camp itself. But if nobody has a fight coming up like that, we're working on more of the stuff we're doing, like straight Sanda stuff. I shouldn't say Sanda stuff, just, Sanda. Boxing, kicking, wrestling. Yeah. What else you got, Kev?
How about when you're showing the knee lift before the Sidekick and you have people who aren't that flexible and they can't lift the foot, so it's as high as the knee, where like the shin is horizontal? What kind of drills or or like stretching?
Stretching. So watch, one stretch we do, it's called a brunt. No, a brunt's is where I lay down. So I'm gonna make my feet a right angle here, right? So I don't know if they can see me. So I'm gonna make my left leg a box here. My right leg is the same thing. I have 2 right angles in my knee. So one stretch, obviously I can lean forward, right? And then if I wanted to crunch to get better with my knee coming the other way, I would lean towards that leg. So if I was left leg for my side kick, it would be this way. I'm gonna lean into that knee and start to stretch. And then, man, obviously butterflies, right? Butterflies, splits, just the basic stuff, man. If somebody has a flexibility issue to where they can't do the movement at our school, then the way you fix it is stretching. And if you want a tip on how to get better, more flexible, faster, when you get out of a hot shower, if you have a jacuzzi, man, stretch all the time. Go do the jacuzzi, hang out for 20 minutes, or a sauna, get out where everything's real hot and stretch real hard, and that's the fastest way you can get flexible.
And also, I think before you work on your circuit or any kind of kicks or like workout, I will spend maybe 5 to 10 minutes on the stretch for your lower part, because first, you don't want to put your muscle, and second, there will be benefit more like endurance when you do the side kick. You don't want your muscle too tight and just do a wrong movement. So before and after 10 to 15 minutes side kick, like what Corey said, or the stretch like that, I think that's good.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that, especially beginners, when we teach the side kick or a front kick too, they can't do the movement, not because of them, but just simply they're not flexible enough. So we will put that movement for them on the back burner on the shelf until they're flexible to do it. Flexible enough to do it.
I mean, awesome. We don't have any other questions from viewers today. Is there anything that you would like to go over to finish up? We still have 3 minutes.
3 minutes? Well, we just talk about what we did today. Roundhouse, again, man, I don't think kick-wise, outside of roundhouse, front kick, and side kick, we do some spinning things, spinning back kick, spinning side kick we'll do later. For the most part, I think the coolest thing about what we do is if it's efficient, then we'll do it. But one thing that's common is not all movements and not all techniques are the same. When I say they're not the same, they're not valued the same. Like there's a reason why you don't see, like you watch Worlds, you see a fights in 5 days. How many times do you see a guy get knocked out by a spinning back kick? Maybe one in the event.
Once per one event, yeah.
How many times you see a guy with a spinning hook kick or any movement where the guy jumps, right? The reason those movements are not going to be as prevalent as the ones we're teaching heavily in these classes is because they're not, in my opinion, I'm not saying they're bad, but they're not as efficient. I mean, if I can just extend my body and punch correctly and throw beautiful hands, it's the movement doesn't burn out all my cardio from jumping and spinning. It doesn't set me up to be countered. Any spinning movement anybody does, if my opponent just steps in, I'm in deep trouble. He's going to body lock me and take me down. So there's a reason why you see people get knocked out with hands more than anything, probably followed by roundhouse kicks to the head or to the body. Because those two movements are the most efficient, safest, they deliver the most power, and they're easy to set up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you jump and spin, so we don't do too many fancy movements like that. Primarily, we practice them because sometimes when you dominate a guy, you can play around. But for the most part, we try to do the things that are most efficient, the highest possibility for success.
I think most basic skills is like,
yeah, it's by far the best.
The best is always the best.
Basics win fights, man.
Mm-hmm. So no more complicated stuff like that.
Can you give us a preview of what you will go over next time?
Yeah, so since we've gone over pretty much all the basic movements we want to do, maybe we'll get into some fancy stuff, maybe at the end. But now what we're going to do after this is the next couple of classes, we're going to talk about punching and kicking together. Because we could actually do a ton of classes just together on how to do it going forward, what I'm looking for when I do it, how I set my opponent up with my hands, the land kicks, and not just that, how I set my punch and kick combinations up to get Bruce to counter so that I can wrestle. So how do I use my hands and feet to set Bruce up for I can look for a takedown? Or, it's endless, man, for punch and kick combinations. Also, we'll do some leg catch
And me.
and mids, how to hold mids for each other. We've got, what else we were talking about earlier? We have leg catch, takedowns, shoot-in takedowns. I mean, yeah, we're gonna try to cover as much of it as we can. But since we've gotten most of the basic moves out of the way, we're gonna move into the fun stuff. I mean, the things where you get to use your brain, like what makes you intelligent while you fight, how you do it. And with those, we're also gonna just give you guys the best drills and things you can do on the mids with a partner so that you can practice.
And most time we're gonna show like a more basic. To be honest, all the stuff is really basic, but I think it's good for beginner and even for advanced, because when you're fighting, you don't keep everything just simple. So next week, like Corey will show us like how to use the mid to judge your distance as a setup, or how to do the counter thing.
Yeah, like how to hold mids as closely to an actual fight as possible.
Yeah.
Instead of just me holding mids and giving Bruce lip service, like, you're so good, Bruce. Yeah, very good. It's, I'm nothing against cardio kickboxing, but that's not what we do.
Yeah.
So everything we teach, whether our students want to fight or they just want to do it for fun and self-defense or to lose weight, we train them all like they're going to go fight at Worlds.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you, guys. That was a really good session. Thank you for all you taught us.